My granddaughter's here too. I'm going to start with her poem because I don't think she'll last that long. My book is dedicated to her, Sylvie Jane. Jane for Jane Austen, right? And so I'm going to start with my poem to Sylvie because this book is really it's a book about journeys, little journeys like or trips or walks, and then sort of the major journeys of our life. And this poem for Sylvie is about, the people who made a journey so that she could exist, who came before she did. So it's called Between Rivers. It's got lots of rivers in it from Sylvie's life here. Between Rivers. For Sylvie. Tell us, Orion, great hunter, while you pace our land, where can we anchor the tents of our many languages, our longings? Who will hear us through the din of so many singing tongues? The moon crosses a black sky thick with shrieks of hawk, crow, owl, words I've forgotten, buried dialects, whole alphabets on the far side of rivers crowd my mouth, adding weight and grit to what can only sing a slow Irish rolling from my tongue to my tiny, dark-haired granddaughter. From her eyes, somewhere between the depths of the Nile, the Rhine, and the verdant marshlands of the Shannon, a question drifts through the reeds. Where am I? Here, child, is your home, your mother tongue. To those who crossed borders, who entered harbors to make it yours, thank you. Orion will follow you, child, watching over all the cities where you will live, all the landscapes you will love. Those were big journeys. And I'm going to read one other big journey poem, sort of the ones in my life who made the journeys so that I could exist. Some of you have heard this before, but I need to read it. And this tells you who I am. It's called Ars Poetica, and it's after Jackson Wheeler, his great Ars Poetica poem, which inspired this poem. Ars Poetica. Because my mother's mother carried her Irish language across a stormy Atlantic to St. Paul, because my great-grandfather, who lived to be 100, sang in Irish as he bounced us on his bony leg, because on the front porch of my grandmother's house, the cousins, all named Mary, learned 100 names for green from rebel songs, because I lived 60 years before I learned my mother's father died drunk under the hooves of a horse he was driving, because my cousin, Sheriff O'Connell, who took bribes from Chicago gangsters, gave money to my widowed grandmother, because when I read about him in St. Paul histories, I thought a saint, not a sinner, because my father's tiny mother came from Galway with a family too full of priests and nuns, because she loved to talk in the way of Irish women over tea and toast at small tables, because I grew up in the quotidian music of women's murmuring close to the ground where the world begins, because men were either silent or overbearing, I lived my girl's life with Anne of Green Gable and Little Women. The bus plying the old Fort Worth road to school became my bridge at San Luis Rey. Because art and music were in the church, I thought beauty belonged to God. Because roots of my young astonishment cling to my inner life like the pine cone growing even after fire, living scales. Because in the convent we were told to be silent, I picked up a pen. Because of my heart's homelessness. Because a poem waits for me to see it the way Monet's last painting, his exact pink and red primroses, waited for his uncurtained vision. Because love will not let go. Because words unwrite as they are written, unspeak as they are spoken. Because my granddaughters listen to my tales of trolls and beanstalks, their eyes pools where words sink and grow, the way I once listened to the old ones. I do not want to die without writing my watery, unwritten universe. Okay, my son in Minneapolis told us that they were expecting snow today. So, so I'm reading this poem. This is why I'm here in California. It's called If Not Snow. It's about driving to work in the snow, in rush hour. If not snow. It'll cool you off, though. Why fight it? Hundreds of work-bound souls stacked up. The river deepening toward its mouth, gray sky, city, hissing gray roads. Let's say you long to break out. You need to feel the surf pound, burn you clean, body opening to heat. Instead, you are caught in rush hour, where billboards shoulder each other above freeway barriers and car dealer signs. Gas stations, each with locked-in attendant, half here, half nowhere. You're beginning to wonder what the soul can fasten to. The vast flotilla of flakes drift across the mind of the sky. White birds gather above us, cover our world with their own blank-eyed, implacable ending. Yeah, that's why I'm here. Except, now I'm working on a poem about my students support this, about driving the 101 to work in the morning, because this semester has been the wildest thing. I mean, it's like one thing after another, and that's going to come into a poem because I can't believe all the stuff that's happened, just a semester. It used to be sort of a nice drive, down from here to Camarillo, not anymore. Okay, I'm going to read another journey kind of poem. This is music, it's about the music that our journey through life, accompanied by certain kinds of music, and everybody's got this. I mean, and it's all going to be different for everybody. I mean, some things in common, but everybody's got this like map of their lives that they can trace through the music. And so this one is called Shifting Time. And it's for my husband and me, and this music that meant something to us. Music we hear together stays with us always. Mahler's Adagietto, a cerulean door in a wall, the melody, both door and weightless key. Mendelssohn's heart-breaking chords, Beethoven in the Art Deco palace, melodies we could see. Dvorak's Seventh in Prague's Smetana Hall, a wedding cake, all gold and cream, music we tasted. In the car, Bach shimmers, the air between us. Gregorian chants ring inside us. When we were young, the monks' stained glass voices became our own. Music we hear together lives in us always. Coco Taylor pierced us with blues beside Lake Superior in the rain, with steel blazing on Chicago's windblown streets. We knelt in the mud, in a mud-soaked tent, transfixed by Coltrane's Love Supreme. At U2's Rose Bowl liturgy, we danced in exuberance to songs of the forgotten, the wronged, the mute, the absent, the dead, gave voice to those who were quiet in life. We heard strings above the city, plunged in darkness, breathing slowly over a scorched earth, a gliding lament lifting the lilac's black leaves. Brahms' Violin Concerto, a message from beyond time, tells us the world at its edges changes to love and is fragile. The cello's almost human voice, a sunburst of wings on the lowest strings, will be what's left of speech between us. Okay, I'm now going to read a couple poems set in other countries, because those are other kinds of journeys, right? And the first one is it's about a walk in a Paris night. Okay. Gardens of Paris. At the Rue de Varine, Rodin's thinker rules the rose garden. his bronze thoughts lost to you and me. He appears again brooding above the last judgment doors. Carved beneath him, eternity's lovers twist in the embrace of the damned, to yearn but never touch, lovers who grasp for each other as demons drag them to the fire. A blackbird sings his searching song. We walk beneath linden trees in our aging bodies where desire simmers after all these years. Chimney swifts shrill in chorus, diving for midges in the long dusk. Peonies droop in every triangle of garden as we cross the plaza behind Notre Dame. The bridge over the Seine crowded with spirits, the living licking ice cream cones, the dead still hungry. Tonight, the sound garden of a Bach concerto drifts from a medieval church off the Rue Saint-Jacques. Silence rises from the Roman dig at Musée de Cluny, from rooms of marble statues, saints and kings without arms. The two of us quiet now as a patisserie at the end of a long day. We praise the garden of the courtly lover and the monk's medieval herbs, fresh as oranges luminous in market stalls. Praise the short stairway as we climb to our room. Praise my heart still strong. Praise your body still whole. Our night's story not yet over. A rectangle of light spills through the high window. I paint you Notre Dame blue. I am Sainte-Chapelle red. Together, we're purple in the deep Paris night. It's set in Lenten time in Antigua, well, all over Guatemala. During the Holy Week, the families create these incredible carpets. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. They stay up all night, and the sidewalks and the streets are filled with hundreds of carpets made out of dyed sand and flower petals and fruit. And I mean, it's the most, Tim was there with, he ran around, took pictures and pictures and pictures, I mean, from like 5:30 in the morning out, And then later on in the day, they have processions, and the people that are carrying Jesus and Mary, on these things, floats, walk right through the carpets, and they're destroyed. And the kids sweep them up, and that's it. So it's like this gorgeous art that lasts not even 24 hours. So this poem is about that, because it's so beautiful. 100 sand and flower carpets, Guatemala. They began last night and are working still at noon, even the little ones who spray dyed vermilion and orange sand grains to keep them from blowing away. Their mother in jeans and sweatshirt stretches to set the topaz eyes in the quetzal birds in the shadows on Mary's roses. Mary with long hair, real as theirs or mine, aquamarine stones for her eyes, holds the child at the center of the universe, butterflies gracing each pole. The young woman with earphones and her cousin with a cell phone lay down serpentine borders of purple hibiscus. They keep me awake all night, but the beauty at my feet pushes faithlessness away. Soon clouds of incense dark the narrow street. Bare feet of men bearing a statue of Jesus destroy the carpet while drums mourn, and the children sweep up brilliant fragments. What happens to beauty when no one believes anymore? All right, field walking in County Donegal. I stumbled upon a fairy fort, a sacred circle of large stones. The wind a sea surge in a holly tree, peacock tail crown turned from a bramble hedge to an emerald and amber, soon to be flaming bowl of mysteries and whispers. Sky a frosted pane, a tumble of crows, fox red, bracken, feathered, chocolate rabbit holes. I turned around inside the circle 3 times, sunwise, as my grandmother had said. But nothing happened. I climbed high, stony Marmor Pass, stopped at the shrine of St. Columba, its prayer flags flapping in wind, past wilted flowers in jars to the holy well, glint of dropped coins. Down I gazed on the field, the stones, the fairy tree, the sea wrapped in salty concentration, and I wondered if the world could ever be changed by my shambling, ancient field love. Okay. Every year on the solstice, I wrote a poem. And I pulled a few of them together here in this solstice suite. And so they're about journeys too, time and place. And I got the idea from this listening. I was up at Santa Barbara, one of the classical concerts. It was Benjamin Britten, a cello suite, and I thought, had all these parts, and I thought, oh, that's what I can do with those poems. I can make a suite, So that's what I did, But I'm only going to read a few. They're short but I like them. The first one is called California Morning Song, and hey Tim, I have in my bag a little card with this poem on it for everybody, which I made and I totally forgot about, when I got here. So on your way out, it'll be on the table by the books. Just pick one up, okay? It's called California Morning Song. Olive tree bent on the hill, bathed in expectancy, lavender and white stone. Sea wind turns the world transparent. Jade shell, pink perfection camellia, water cuts in sand. Mutate on the zigzag border between wholeness and coming undone. The horizon a gold line broken by tankers and tall ships between visible and unseen. How loneliness ends, though you are far from home. How a sailor becomes the oceans she sails across. And then there are, of course, the days where you miss the solstice. You go through the whole day and you get to the night and you say, oh my gosh, it was a solstice. No poem, totally missed it. So this poem is for those times. Missing the solstice. During the peppery dusk, the day, a sotto voce conversation between stone-washed sky and sun. Between small tasks, grubbing floor, clawing weeds, I search the warm drum of summer evening, the rising moon a golden mask from the house of Atreus, and listen to an alien chant, heart torn open to the world. Look inside yourself. Now, look deeper. And then one year I had my lung collapsed, and I had to spend the whole month of June sitting, basically, looking out. On this porch. I was in Minnesota when it happened, and there I was, and I just spent the summer looking. So this poem came out of all that looking, and it rained just about every day. They get lots of rain there. Scree. Maybe when there are no rules in candle flame air, only the rose of each lung blooming. White spiral script on black stone. What can I learn? After days of rain, pond a lake, in wind, what comes next? One frog chants, 5 ducklings drag tiny green V's behind their mother. The red fox lurks, hungry. Night heron hunches toward her own face, purple-shawled, back each year to the same branch. This morning I watched the muskrat swim his tail across water, dragging dolorous ribbons in his mouth. His lidless eyes stare straight ahead. Ahead is all there is. And this last one is called Serenade. I tried to have a kind of a musical theme in the titles and stuff. Serenade. Okay, so this is about lots of journeys. Serenade. At home in St. Paul, voices plead in alleyways of bells. Tombs lean in rows, and inside them we laid our parents. In the morning, the boardwalk calls us, our gray Toyota on the freeway, a way to breathe, racing east, turning west. In all our farewells, we pray for the next day and the next. I fly with you to Chiang Rai and Athens, Scotland, roses in the morning, We watched dolphins like poems from the shore among herons fishing. Music lifts us, the aegis of orchestra, insistent waves of cello, violins, blue mountains, leaping voice of piano, the vibrato inside us, the clarity of water on stone. Over us, a cloud's bruised lid, with fisted cold, tears, light, owl swooping. When the night is fire or river inside us and we have no lock to keep our love, we have June light and music joining the waters of your life, the waters of mine. Thank you. I'm going to read this poem for Miranda. She's still there? Yeah. Timothy's not there. It's my daughter-in-law. And my son, I was going to read it for him too, but I read it. Is he there? Okay, good. I'm reading your poem, Tim. I wrote it for their wedding. It's epithalamium for Miranda and Timothy. I thought I'd read it for them since they're here. I got that word. I'd forgotten about that word, and Jackson wrote an epithalamium. I see it's another thing he inspired, and I thought, oh, that's what I'm going to call this poem. Epithalamium for Miranda and Timothy. Old names, old souls, you brought noise to our lives, made us mother, father. You brought us words pouring from small mouths, new worlds exploding from child seats in cars, on bicycles, under our feet, just born sentences, trailing us around the house. Push the needle, toddler Miranda always said, push the needle when she wanted people to get to the point. She was already there. When I say timber, nothing falls, Tim announced at 2 as he pushed open another door. Timothy, Miranda, may you go farther and deeper into the wild, evanescent life of this planet. May everything you love teach you how to live. May you make stories new from old. May everything you grieve teach you music. May you follow the flute and rattle of your dreams. It's called Painting the Walls, and it's another journey through life. It's based on this quote by a Buddhist monk, life is a fall down a well. Painting the walls. My mother's fingers never stopped twisting for sons in Korea, Vietnam, somewhere in the streets. You and I prayed, sang in stadiums, not churches, each night counting the dead. Through that violent winter, we argued over draft cards, afraid of prison, not knowing how to find our voices, how to love in a world that was ending. Now, children gone west and east, we are alone again, and still young ones die. Here in distant lands, our past, our present. Helpless, 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 helpless. Neil Young's voice, a crackle of notes from the stereo, another kind of burning. History forgets to remember the stumbling walk of the sun across water, wind that keeps grieving around the corners of the Black Monument. Forget your angry voice, my exhausted dreams, how time is life in reverse. What can we do but leave messages on walls for those who might remember? What can we do but hold hands as we fall down the well of the time we are making? That was published in Askew. It's called Palimpsest. And I brought it to a writing group, and somebody said, oh, there's a line in here. She said, that would make a great title for a book. And I said, oh, wow, that would. And so that's how I got it. It's Palimpsest. If by truth you mean hands shaping the vertebrae of stars, if by hands you mean oak branches scratching the moon's face, if by branches you mean that sickle moon lying on its side as if asking, if by moon you mean pillow expectant as we, fingers laced, walk dim streets, if by pillow you mean feather words, the breath of fasting lovers, if by words you mean answers where the moon tilts on its side like a burning blade, if by answer you mean bruised trees, clouds, lights of a far-off city, or the way your finger slides into my closed fist, trembling the lifeline, the way Your palms resurrect my breasts. Different mood. This is a totally different mood. I'm going to read this now. This is a narrative poem about a story from my growing up on West 7th Street in St. Paul. It's a true story, you know. It's called River Cop. The department didn't know what to do with his large hands, deep angers, so they gave him a boat, the river to patrol. Uncharted territories, nude swimmers, drunken boaters. He had rope swings to cut down every night. They were startled by his zeal, the parade of nude boys, each day's catch shivering in blankets because he hid their clothes. My mother rode the bus down to the station to claim my speechless brothers. The Mississippi cut through sandstone cliffs, wild bottoms of old St. Paul. The river cop's boat, a moving target as he charged up and down river, waving his gun, threatening to shoot stray dogs, swimmers, hunters who daily slogged through mud and reeds to check riverbank traps. From the shelter of the river caves, boys stoned his boat. But when they saw the river cop who couldn't swim floundering in deep water, they rescued him. One summer night, Bill and Jerry dragged a small Civil War cannon all the way to the caves below Otto Street, where they loaded nuts and bolts. Soon metal struck the river cop's boat, a hollow clang echoing through the river chamber, shaking beer bottles off the shelves of West 7th Street bars. Sirens filled the streets, but the police refused to chase kids into caves where in the dark, under garlands of bats, they toasted a new street legend. Boys who would soon die in Vietnam broke free of cramped yards, never naming the violence that cut sweet and murky as the Mississippi through their street lives. When my brothers talk about their growing up on the Mississippi, my sons would always say, when they were kids, they said, "We have no life. What are we going to tell our kids? We don't get to do any of that kind of stuff," you know. And it's true, you know. Times are different. All right, and I'm going to read two more poems. This one I should come back to California. A Map for Our Journey. Cathedral Grove, Muir Woods. So I was thinking maps. We have lots of maps for our journey. These redwoods hiss news we've never noticed before. Maps for a wanderer, they wrap us in rough shadow. Familial circles bear one another, share water, wood, fog, and needle. Bear throat, egress of growl, deer blink avenue, where spider drops her sack. Vertical horizons, ravine of leaves, bark caverns, scarified calligraphies. Leaf ears in the forest catch little flies. Green cuppings like begging bowls at invisible crossroads. Take each offering, even the one that kills. It's called Aging in Ephesus. In a tea garden in the small Turkish town, 4 small tables with chairs. Trees muffle the clamor of motorbikes. Tall stones surround a decaying bathhouse, all orange in slanting light. An innkeeper smiling below a mustache bows pours wine and tea served with small silver spoons. All time gathered in this quiet, gray and white kittens winding around my legs. In the field, a column from the Temple of Artemis. On the hill above, ruins and the tomb of St. John. Storks, gulls, soft conversation, even as the call for prayer resounds from low roofs of whitewashed houses. A kingdom of stone paths, wild hollyhocks, and kittens mewling. After sunset, a whole fish, grilled, dressed with tomatoes and cumin, appears on a plate. I want to kiss it. That's the end. Thank you so much. Thanks. Thanks, yeah.